Hey everybody, this is Al Nash from the Unapologetic Women Empowerment Dynasty, and you're listening to the Unapologetic Woman podcast, the show for women who choose to live their legacies unleashed, unlimited, and unapologetic. If this is a space you're curious about, visit unapologetic-women.com. Today we're talking about respect for yourself with Kirti Daryanani. Kirti, the founder of Katana 168, brings authentic storytelling to understand the complexities of communicating in diverse environments. With her extensive experience and unique background, she invites a fresh perspective to sensitive topics such as code switching, cultural imposter syndrome, and more. Kirti's journey has been one of self-understanding, finding her voice to build lasting relationships, which ultimately led to her book, #Befriend Your Mind, and her 3-step process on befriending, helping individuals to find clarity when they feel confused and lost in communicating about affairs of the heart. She is renowned for her captivating speaking engagements, moderating conversations, and facilitating brave spaces in esteemed organizations and universities. Thanks for joining us. This is my dear friend, Kirti. I am so in love with life at the moment because I'm so in love with the women that I'm getting to meet in life at the moment. And I never dreamed I would get to a space where I would get on a call with a complete stranger and just have this instant, oh yeah, like we are meant to meet in this lifetime. What a blessing to be alive in this time. And what a blessing to have met you. So, welcome to the podcast, Kirti. And thank you for saying yes, for being here today.
Hi, Elle. And can I say you've said it much more eloquent than I could have ever echoed how you feel, because I feel exactly the same way. Thank you for having me.
It's interesting. We were having a conversation yesterday about the whole know, like, and trust factor. And it was part of a really big conversation around friendship and the fact that I believe that consciousness is ripe and ready for us to bring friendship back into business. And when we bring friendship back into business, it's mutual know, love, and trust that is required, not like. Because when we like people, we show up in a way that they will continue to like us. But when we love people, it requires us to show up in a way that's completely authentic, to have the conversations that want to be had, that need to be had, that raise the vibration, even though sometimes it doesn't feel fabulous in the moment, right? And I felt that with you from the very first.
I think for me, when I think about you, the word appreciation. So, you share the word love. The word that comes to me is appreciation. I remember whenever we have spoken, there's a deep appreciation. You take your time to speak and your time to share your views, which I really respect. And I think that's where when you say the word love, I'm like, wow, the definition of love is just so array and such a variety. So when you're sharing it, I'm like, so for me, the color or the vibrancy that comes through is this sense of appreciation when I hear you share this. And it's true about friendship. Definitely echo on that as well. And what I find fascinating is that we don't have to be having coffee in the same location because we're so far away. And I'm just thinking, I'm looking forward to having coffee. For you, it's morning. For me, it's late afternoon. I'm thinking, oh, this is fabulous.
Yes. Thank God for technology. And I have to confess, I was very averse to technology for a really, really long time. Especially in my work space, I wanted to be impersonal. I'm a hugger. Like, I love hugging people. I love being present with people. And when I started embracing technology, and everything that's created can have good and negative contrasting experiences that result from it. And I think it's very easy for us to get into fear and focus on the negative outcomes that is happening and that is possible to happen even with us, and then go, no, but what is all the juicy positive things? And this, I would never have met women like you if I had not embraced technology and just kind of going, well, what is the possibilities that is now open to me because of this creation? And that I get to bring women into the future, because I'm blessed to live in a place that is more normally a day ahead of everybody else. And I'm like, I get to literally connect consciousness in somebody else's future and make it our present. So in this moment, past and future comes together in present. And thereby we are literally collapsing the time in consciousness. Yeah. How mind-blowing is that?
I should be doing my podcast right now and interviewing you. This is fabulous. I never saw that way. Future and past coming into one moment. And really, it is that.
Yes.
That's deep.
We're going to have to sit on that for a while. We're going to have to sit and stew on that for a while, because I've got goosebumps. So it was like that needed to be said today. And I'm not sure why, but that needed to be brought into awareness today for people.
I think it's very interesting you're saying that. So I took a very impromptu trip to New York City. I haven't been there for, I think, at least minimum 15 years. And I was on the fence. I'm like, should I go? Should I not go? And there's a business opportunity and it's not set in stone. And my friend said to me, if you don't go now is the moment. You seize the moment. It doesn't matter. You don't get anything out of it, but you've got people, when they meet you face to face, it's still face to face. And in my head, it's the opposite, because I was traveling for so long. So I got so used to communicating online. So now I'm going back into the space of face-to-face communicating. And so I go there, and that's really past and future coming together for me, because it's planting a seed from yesterday, because I'm meeting them from offline to in person and not knowing where the seed is going to be tomorrow. So I'm just like, that's so profound and so many layers for you to share that.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, let's reset. Let's start where I'm supposed to be starting this conversation.
Hell, is that possible? All right.
With the question of all questions that people are listening to this podcast for, and that is, Kirti, what does it mean to you to be an unapologetic woman?
For me, it's a very deep and cultured conversation, because I'm Indian by descent from my parents, raised in the Caribbean. So you have a very Western point of view as well. But from a South Indian point of view, a woman has always had a lot of responsibilities placed on her, obligations, what's expected of her. And so whenever I didn't fulfill those obligations, I always felt this sense of guilt running inside of me constantly. So I would say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And even though I didn't really feel sorry inside, I had to say sorry, because that was the respectful thing to do. And I never realized how much that was running me up until I burnt out. I was working a lot, and I was working because a part of me just did not know how to say no, how to be unapologetic about saying, I don't have enough capacity to give you. And that in the end burnt me out. And I had to learn the hard way and it goes back to appreciation, how to appreciate that it's to love myself and enjoy myself and appreciate myself, so that when there's time to say no, it's not that I'm neglecting someone. It's just that I'm not being I'm reversing my narrative of being selfish. So I don't feel like by helping someone, I'm going to feel good about it. But changing the narrative of saying, I don't feel really okay right now. I need to fill my cup. And when I fill my cup, I can give it to you without expecting in return. So it was really shifting that narrative into the whole conversation of unapologetic.
Mm. This needs to be heard at the moment, and here's why. I had a woman book in a meeting with me, and she sent me an email just before the meeting, and she apologized and said, I'm really not feeling well. I need to reschedule this meeting, and because when I meet you, I want to feel my best self, and I'm so sorry for the inconvenience. And I replied to her and I said to her, there is nothing more beautiful than a woman who understands when it's time to show up and when it's time
Mm-hmm.
to nurture herself. And it is when we understand that this is the time for self-nurturance that we actually show true respect to the other person. Like you, I was raised in a culture of servitude, a culture of having to always be available to other people, and that made me valuable. As long as I could
Mm-hmm.
do something for you, my existence had value.
Mm-hmm.
I had to apologize for taking up space. I had to apologize for speaking my thoughts and creating discomfort in another. I had to apologize if I wasn't meeting somebody else's perceived expectation of me, because I
Mm-hmm.
always thought, no, they expect me to be perfect. They expect me to get good grades. They expect me to excel in everything. That was a self-perceived expectation that I created, right? And like you, I got to the point of, well, for me, it wasn't burnout. My awakening remembrance took the form of suicidal depression, of understanding that I had suppressed my true self to such a point that I was completely depleted and therefore had no more will to live.
Yeah. Yeah.
How wonderful that more and more women are giving themselves permission to be selfishly self-nourishing and realizing that, we talk about we give from a full cup, but 90% of women who say the words are still not actually living the words. How
No,
beautiful
because
that
it's a really tough.
it is. It is really tough because we are criticized, and we trained people to have a certain expectation of us. We've trained people how to treat us if we don't meet that certain standard of behavior previously embodied by ourselves. And society still expects, still praises, still puts on the pedestals those who outwork, those who out struggle, those who are, the greatest overcomers. Life is supposed to be so hard in order for us to be the hero of the story, and go you. And meanwhile, back at the ranch, the hero is like, oh, please, God, let it just be night so I can go to sleep because I'm freaking exhausted and I don't know how I'm going to get up tomorrow morning and drink my cup of coffee and go, yeah, I'm back, world. Let's do this again. I mean, it is just
But you,
ludicrous.
but you know what the sad, but I know and exactly what you're saying, but the sad part is that this conversation I had, yes, it's like I'm having a deja vu conversation. We're talking about the alpha female in the work environment, and I have this thing. I'm saying, I love to train men more than females, and they're like, why? I said, listen, why is the burden always on a woman to do all the work? She's doing all the self development. She's exhausting herself. she's not enjoying her life anymore. And the man's just sitting there going, well, mold to me. And so I said, I much rather change the narrative and say, bring the gentleman to me, or the male gender, and let me support them to go from avoiding difficult conversations to having them, because it will take a huge burden off of us, because there's that constantly comparison and competition narrative that goes on in women. That's why we end up with this whole apology. So when you're talking now, I'm like, yeah, it's exactly that, because I see it in the generations that are coming forward. And I find the female gender is apologizing a lot more than less. And I go, with everything that we know, all the self-development there is, why is there so much apologizing? I don't know if you've sensed that as well.
So this is interesting. So I always preferred working with men. And I come from 20 years of working with men. For me, they were way more hungry to be coached, way more hungry to truly be their best selves than the women that I encountered. Respectful and loved to all women, not putting women down at all, right? I'm just saying,
No, I get it.
in my background, the men were really like, I want to be my best self. I want to have the tough conversations with you. I want to be the best man, lover, husband, CEO, whatever that I can be. And the woman that came was very much a mentality of fix me. Very
Yeah,
different.
I can see you. Yes.
And women are almost lovingly, please take this where it's coming from, becoming self-development snobs, in that, look at us, we are doing so much self-development work, but in that we are continuously trying to fix what is not broken. And so we are continuously looking at people and going, teach me, guru, show me what the way. I mean, I was having a conversation yesterday with a group of women, and one of the ladies said, yeah, but you are way ahead of me in the journey. And I said, no, 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 no. We are all where we are meant to be in our individual journeys, but you think that you're on the same path as me, and therefore you say, I'm ahead of you, instead of understanding that you're on a different path. We are not walking the same line, people. And so if women can just start understanding that and stop comparing themselves and thinking that if I do enough personal development work, then I'll be whole, then I'll be great, then I'll be somebody worthy of leading others, the entire narrative will change, because we will become very present. And that's why my work is now focused on creating the feminine art of self-leadership, because I so deeply desire women to understand you are whole, you are complete, you are perfect. You're in the perfect space for where you're meant to be right now in this moment. There's no place that you need to be getting to, but you have to saturate yourself with where you're at before you can expand into what's next for you.
So I took on, it's very interesting, because I'm going to share with you an experience. So while I was traveling, so I was traveling around the world, and I was exhausted. Like you, my burnout also manifested into getting a lot of harm on myself, because it wasn't, and it's interesting you call it self-development snob. For me, I felt so much pressure to support others, because it was like a gift. I could tell at a certain point, it was just able to talk and share and talk. I was able to do things so quickly, but I wasn't restoring my own worth. So I said, I can't do this anymore. And that's why I left, because if I felt suicidal, then I'm obviously, there's something really, really deep that's showing up. And so I started traveling, and I did have a friend who was guiding me, a spiritual friend, but I was struggling, and I actually felt my spirituality faith got broken there. And then I went through this whole thing of self-development, but I didn't I struggled with self-development because it didn't resonate with my culture. Because Asians don't really understand self-development gurus and all that. They don't have that, you know? So you're really trying to figure all this out on your own and you're traveling. And then I kept bumping into these amazing people along the way, which I had no idea from. And one lady who shows up as a form of a Buddhist nun in some ways. Um, Unfortunately, she passed. Well, she's moved on in her journey, from the worldly journey. And so she said to me, Kirti, as long as we speak about ourselves as broken, then we're always going to be in the cycle of it. She goes, for as long as we recognize that we were born whole and complete, when you see every individual as whole and complete, you will never discuss them as if they're broken. And that just opened my, it shifted something so deep inside of me. And I went, okay, so if I just say, everybody goes, I'm enough, I'm enough. And I just said, well, it's not about enough for me. It's about I'm whole and I'm complete and I'm okay. And it was profound. That was a very big shift in my, in the way I treated myself, because that for me was becoming be respectful to yourself, be honest with yourself. And, when all these judgments come up, they're informing you. They're not killing you. They're informing you. And so now when I share Befriend Your Mind, the book I published, and I didn't expect it to publish that, but I wanted something that I could remind myself I am whole and complete. Because the self-development, and that's why I think it's so interesting. You called it the self-development snob. And I'm like, yeah, that's point on. Because there's this whole like, oh, and what are you doing? And oh, what are you doing? And then when women go, well, I'm not dating someone. And I'm just like, did you try and fix the guy? Because I wouldn't want to date you either, I don't want to go out with a man who's like me. I don't want that image. That just, I want it a little messy and chaotic and fun. And like I told you, sassy. I love that word, So yeah, the snob you point on, I agree with you, because that snobbery is like a privilege. And when you come across like that, it's not that you want somebody to feel needed, but you sound like you've got it all so sorted out that you are just not able to be human. And I'm not going to say feminine or masculine, but just human. Like, hey, today's a rough day. That's it.
Exactly. And I don't want to not be human, because if I say that I want to have all my ducks in a row every single day, and I want to be like, I've got it, then this journey has no more meaning for me as a soul, and it's time to check out. And I'm kind of going, no, I'm having way too much fun. Look, it took me 50 years to get to a point of going, oh, now it's getting fun. Okay, I've got 50 years of learning, 50 years of experience in understanding, what I don't want for the next 50 years. Like, I've lived so much contrast that I'm very clear on the life that I want to intentionally create for myself moving forward. I am not ready to check out now. And I know that I am still going to be messy moving forward, because, well, I like playing in the mud. I like my life messy.
Exactly.
I enjoy chaos. I enjoy unknowing. I enjoy creating from seemingly nothing, from sitting in the mess with the spaghetti and going, oh my God, how am I going to untangle this? Like, I was talking to my partner last night, and he's the most fabulous man. He was talking about he's building a board to jump off in the swimming pool, but it couldn't just be a normal one, right? So it had to be specifically designed, and these guys are figuring out how to do it along the way. And he goes, wouldn't it be cool if we put these lights underneath? Now he forgets I'm in the car, and he starts talking, and he goes, oh my God, I have no idea. How are we going to do this? why do I always do this to myself? I kind of go, wouldn't this be cool? And then I thought, I don't know how to do this, but what if we just do this? And I go, I love watching you consciously create and then solve puzzles for yourself. Create and solve puzzles for yourself. And I thought to myself, yeah, that is really what life is about, is we come into these bodies to consciously create and solve puzzles for ourselves with the help of the entire universe. And that is how we're actually evolving consciousness, is human experience creating and solving puzzles. But we've become so tight about it. Oh my God, it's all these problems. We have to focus on the problems. We have to solve all the problems. Well, what if we just reframe problems to puzzles? And we just started being more fun about this again. Then it's no longer, oh, I have to be doing personal development. Honey, we're developing, like whether we're doing it consciously or not. You can't not develop, right? You are developing consciousness, and therefore you as a human are developing. Some of us are just doing it more intentionally than others.
I think we've fallen asleep. I call it falling asleep. I think if we walk through life, and it happens. I mean, I get caught up in my work and I can fall asleep. You stop experiencing. I call it the deliciousness. You forget to live the deliciousness of life. And even if it's the smallest thing or the greatest thing, it doesn't matter. But we're constantly seeking for greater and greater, 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 that you're making it so great, you're overwhelming your system inside, because you're not allowing that the little moments are like you said, those are the puzzle pieces, and they make the bigger picture. And that is what I always feel. I struggled with self-development. When I started doing the yoga, it was because I wanted to undevelop myself and untrain myself. And it's about deconditioning. So if I have to decondition, how can I develop? I see it as, I gotta let go of all that. So, but I knew that I understood that if I let go, I create more space to let in. And that's when, but a lot of people get into deliberateness. They're saying, oh, I'm being deliberate, I'm being intentional, but they stop letting go of the baggage, because they're trying to take the baggage and then it doesn't work. And they go, well, why isn't it working? I go, well, that's got to happen first before you go there. And then you just think, okay, and that's when you say, are people ready? And I don't think you're ever ready with discomfort. I think it's willingness. It's very much about willingness and being committed to being discomforted. I wrote that on my thread yesterday because I noticed that I was in Manhattan and everything's so chaotic. And I felt like in these big jungle of buildings, I felt like Alice in Wonderland. Look, waiting that in any moment I'm going to see the Cheshire Cat come out and tell me something really random. And so my friend was like calling me every couple of blocks. And he's like, are you sure you're going to walk to Hudson Yards? So it's 4 avenues and 10 streets down. It's about a 40-minute walk. And for me, I'm like, yeah, leave me alone. Don't call me. I don't want to hear from you. And I got lost. But sometimes you need to get lost to see how beautiful life really is, as is. That's how I see it, at least.
So I have to share 2 things with you, because I want to just highlight how connected we are in consciousness, and this is going to blow your mind. This morning I wrote in my journal, it's time to clear out the closets. It's time to literally clear out my makeup. But now this it gets better, Kirti.
No,
Yesterday I wrote in my journal, I want to create an Alice in Wonderland experience for my ladies. I want them to see the Cheshire Cat in the magic.
Mm-hmm.
This is not coincidence, by the way. And that's why I'm mentioning it on this podcast, because I really want women to start paying attention to the synchronicities in life. What is the chance of me writing the words Alice in Wonderland yesterday and you using the words Alice in Wonderland today, which again, past, future coming together in present. In the same moment, we were actually thinking Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, there you go.
If we honestly,
I mean, you know, this is the fun of it. This is the juice of life.
yes, but I've also come to understand that we have to consciously say, I want to see the synchronicities. I want to be present and not miss, because these are moments of freaking
So,
deliciousness and delight. Is like,
so, okay. So I'm going to share something. We can share something to the audience. I've been reading about, well, and something I share all the time. Whenever we want to see something, if we see it from a space of lack, you will not see it.
yes.
You'll get more of a validation that you'll never see it. So you got to ask yourself, when you want something, are you seeing it from a space of lack or a space of curiosity? Not a space of I want,
No.
but like, ooh, I wonder what that would be like. Because that's the Cheshire Cat, right? To give you this is the funniest part. So I flew in with my sister. When I arrived into Miami, my sister lives in Miami. She goes, I think you should go on Tuesday after mom leaves. You will go on Tuesday. She goes, I was like, yeah. I'll go to New York. She then tells me 2 days later, she goes, oh my God, I'm also going to New York on Tuesday for work. And I go, it's really weird. And I kept telling her, I said, it is written, it is written. We were playing this game. So I organized a shuttle, which means I'd have to go with about 12 people to Manhattan. I get off the flight. She's really worried because she's going off somewhere else. And she goes, are you going to be okay? Are you sure you're going to be okay? We get an app. There's a limo coming to pick me up. And I went, oh, no way. This is so, you know, this curiosity inside was like, it is written, it is written. But the excitement inside of me is what brought it, because it wasn't from a space of like, oh, I wish, I lack it, therefore I wish it. It was like curious. Spoke to the guy this morning on my way back. He called up the service and said, don't give her a shuttle. I'm going to pick her up and drop her back. And I thought, oh, wow. And it was because we really connected. So I told him, I said, you were meant to take care of me on this journey, because it is written. It is Alice in Wonderland in its entirety of beauty. So, yeah, let's tell the audience, get to be curious, you know?
Be playful, be curious. I instruct the universe, surprise and delight me. I freaking love it. I'm like a little girl. I'm like this morning, I was somehow distracted in getting in my car so that I could come to the office to meet with you. And my thought at one stage, as I was standing at the gates waiting for it to open, was, oh, I wonder if I'm going to be late. I wonder why I wasn't out the door at the time that I said. And this bunny runs across, and I was like, because I was meant to see the bunny. Because if I had left at the normal time, I wouldn't have seen the bunny. I mean, how perfect.
I'm late.
Right? The synchronicities is just like, and I think maybe that is why I missed out on the magic and richness of life for such a long time. Because I didn't immerse myself in going, oh, the bunny. Oh my God.
But
The second I had to be there at the exact right second to see the bunny. That's magic.
but Elle, did you really miss out? Because would you have not, if it wasn't for those experiences, would you have not experienced what you're experiencing now? I always ask myself this. So I'm wondering what you think about it.
I agree with you. I agree. But yes, my experience was so dark and so
Yeah.
lacking and so I remember running one day and I had this clear vision of my soul in a coffin, nailed shut, and there were scratch marks on the inside of the lid as my soul was attempting to get out. that is how I lived for a long time. Like literally, I was on autopilot, being the
Mm-hmm.
high achieving good girl on the outside, but my soul was literally shut away from on the inside. And I'm appreciative of the experience, because when I chose to get out of the coffin, when I chose to
Mm-hmm.
live, everything changed for me. I think maybe my message to the listeners are, life is rich when you choose to see the richness. Like it's already there, but we either get to choose to see it or we choose not to see it because of the frequency that we're on, right? If we're on a really low frequency, we can only see what is there. And I so wish that I had somebody make me aware of it at that time, not taking away from my journey, but maybe this is where we get to pay it forward to anybody who's experiencing life as lackluster, as scary, as gray at the moment, to go, it's not that life is gray, it's just you just kind of vibrating there at the moment. And if you just little by little choose every day, and you just
Mm-hmm.
say, I want to feel happy today. I'm choosing to feel happy, even if it's for 5 minutes, even if I put on a song and I just dance and feel happiness for 5 minutes today. That's a great start.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see
Because
how
you're
your
letting go of the
frequency,
emotional numbness.
yes, and you'll
Mm-hmm.
just start dancing more and more. And I just feel like right now I'm dancing with life. I'm dancing with life. And sometimes I feel like I'm leading, but for the most part, my learning at this stage is not leading, is to trusting the universe to lead. And it's an uncomfortable space that I'm finding myself in. This morning, I was thinking,
I
I've been
echo on
really
those sentiments.
stressed the last few days because I'm feeling out of control in certain areas of my life. And I used to be a control freak. And the message was just let go and have fun.
Mm.
Allow yourself to be twirled around. You're safe. It's good. It's all working out. But it's still tough in the moment, right? We're still human. We're still human.
We are. I can understand a lot exactly what you say. You just think when those moments arrive, you're like, oh, and it's very quick to go to that judgment. Love judgment's like, here I am, your best friend, da-da. And you're just like, and you're not the person I invited into the room, when you this other side of you is just showing up, and you're like, I didn't ask you to the party. And then there's a part of you that's like, oh, here Miss Goody Two Shoes shows up as well. So you feel like inside of you, there are like all these voices, and you go, okay, hold on. And then you just go, okay, you know what? Both of you shut up. Just shut. And then just the moment. And then I slow down. I can't go as fast as before. And you want to slow down so that when I process, it's for me, the word I always come back to is I'm being respectful to myself now. And if there's one thing I wish every woman understood, no matter how young you are, you don't need to please everybody first. The only responsibility you have is to respect yourself. And by respecting yourself is not, you don't need to be with a man to feel respected. You don't need to have the high achieving job to be respected. You don't need to be someone else just to get the recognition of respect. But when you respect yourself, and this is why I have an issue with self-care. I rather, we replaced it with self-respect, because when you shower, respect yourself in the shower. When you're touching your hand, or you're letting someone speak to you, let that dignity and respect for yourself to be there, because you don't have to then compare yourself to someone else. You don't need to compete with anyone, because you have defined and understood what is your relationship to respecting yourself. And I wish, like you, I really wish at the time when it was dark that somebody just told me, you don't need to fix yourself. You just need to remember to respect yourself. And that just redefines everything, your boundaries, your self-worth. It's all of it.
That
It's
is
all of it. And
beautiful.
then that stresses.
That is beautiful. And I think that this is going to take such a weight of a lot of women, because
Yeah.
self-nourishment, self-care has almost just become another thing on the to-do list.
Yeah. I 160. When somebody tells me, are you going to give me a yoga class? I'm like, no, because you're just done too much yoga. You're yogered out. You just don't, please don't do. Shall we meditate? I'm like, please don't, because you're not respecting yourself. Until you do that, all of this can come into play. And people struggle when I tell them that. They're just like, what do you mean? I agree with you. The self-nourishment, self-care, it's
It's
it's overwhelming.
it's become another judgment thing, right? It's become another, oh, look
Yeah.
at me, I meditate every day. Look at me. So I use a meditation app called Insight Timer, and I was
Yeah.
sitting on 690 something days, consecutive days, and then I missed a day, and I was like, oh, I'm back to zero. And I thought to myself, wow, this was such a good thing to happen for me, to have missed that one day, because it became a thing that I thought I had to do every single day. I had to squeeze it in every single day because I'm a meditator. Instead of going, no, I meditate because I feel like, oh, it's time to just be still and connect with inner self just for a moment, for the joy
You,
of the connection, not because I think it's going to
mhm.
create something in my life.
You know, Elle, one of the things, a lot of, I get bad press before I get good press. That's what I always say. Everybody's like, oh, there, Kirti's the mirror. She's just going to put that mirror up. But the first couple of weeks when I work with clients, the one thing I ask them to do is you have to stop feeling addicted to being pressurized. Stop pressurizing yourself. But to say stop pressurizing yourself, you pressurize yourself more. And the addiction to pressure yourself is like so high. So when you're in meditation, no longer is it about slowing down, it's about pressurizing yourself that you have to do this, because
Yes.
otherwise you're not going to be the good girl effect. And when I see, like, I have my nieces, they're, when they struggle with going on a date, I'm like, do you not see? And I can't tell them. I'm like, I'm not going to coach you. You didn't ask me, but you know, because again, it's respecting their boundaries, right?
Yep.
But then you see that if they just respected themselves, their energy tells another person, accept me, respect me, treat me the way I want to be treated, because that ultimately boils down to that. So I do believe self-respect, self-pressure, knowing that relationship with for any woman. And I think that I always see it in how you teach about conscious leadership. I really do agree that women, because I've always seen women come from a male's version of coaching or male's version of leadership. But if women introduce this back into the narrative of self-respect, letting go of their own pressure, they give leeway, and others will feel like, oh, I can do it too. I can feel that too. I can let go of that too. And I think I feel as leaders, when we start that, it's going to be a domino effect. I do feel it. I do see it.
That's why I believe that feminine self-leadership is where it's going, because it's replacing the masculine high-achieving women in leadership, the alpha female. And it's really interesting because I used to have an alpha female brand, and it
Mm,
attracted the aggressive female, not the alpha female
mhm,
in my definition of what an alpha female is. But when we can shift out of this very masculine leadership modality that women have been conditioned in, we've all been raised in it, we will see the return of the wise woman. And the
mm,
wise woman's energy is very different because she's lived life and death, birth and sorrow. When we've lived all of these things and allow ourselves to then be and to
mhm,
share and to be unrushed and to not motivate people but to inspire people, that is
mm.
where life almost returns to harmony. And that is what
Well,
I'm
we're all,
really enjoying.
but isn't that goes back to the whole and complete, right? Whole and complete is coming to a sense of harmony, and everything in alignment allows it to work. I find it very interesting that you've taken on this approach. And again, I'm always questioning how culturally influenced it could be, because being in the conversation, the meeting I was yesterday, the needle for moving away from alpha female is just not even moved much as the whole inch, right? And so, we were talking and discussing about creating workshops or discussing how to get men, because we're on this thing of how do we get men not to feel intimidated and to have a conversation, because there's a lot of avoidance in the tapestry, or there's a hollowness in their way of learning about emotional, not intelligence, but emotional understanding, their tapestry. I call it a tapestry because you really want to know that. And so we were discussing this, and this person says, I'm not sure that's ever going to go away, the alpha female. So I said, well, then if it's never going to go away, the only way to go away from it is to become friends with it. And by friends is get to know what your alpha female looks like, so that you then can decide what's no longer needed. What can you just throw out of the window and say no, and then take a different approach towards this. And it's, yeah, we're really in Alice in Wonderland conversation today.
Yes. And I'm looking at the time and kind of going, wow, this could go on for days. So I'm going to wrap it up with one question for you. And that is, what do you take an unapologetic stance for in the world?
Respecting myself. It's about respecting myself. Respecting myself to be able to respect others.
Love it. I love how when we finally bring something home to ourselves, we are truly able to give it to others. When we finally get to love ourselves, we can finally truly love others. When we finally respect ourselves, we can finally truly respect others and show them respect, not by bowing down, but by respecting their individuality, the diversity, and all that it is. And when we respect ourselves, we choose to be our best selves in the moment, whatever that best self looks like in the moment. And sometimes it looks spectacular, and sometimes it looks spectacularly messy.
Yep. But then you're not losing your dignity at any point.
Because you're in integrity, right? And that is what I love.
Yeah.
This has been a magical conversation. Thank you so much. And to all our listeners, thank you for joining us today. And I'd love to hear from you. A couple of things. What resonated deeply for you in this conversation? And what is your experience been in the realm of self-respect? And no judgment, no shaming. We all on a journey in this field. And yes, it can be a game changer, but I also know that for as long as I didn't respect myself, I couldn't get respect from other people, because I was out of integrity in my core, not making it wrong, not shaming myself, part of my journey. Very grateful for it. Until next week, remember that we get to live our legacies, unleashed, unlimited, and unapologetic. Have an amazing day further. Cheers. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram at The Unapologetic Woman and on LinkedIn at L-Naj. And if you're interested in experiencing the Unapologetic Women Friendwork Soiree, book in for our next open meeting at unapologetic-women.as.me/unapologetic. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.